As a new Diablo 4 player, I've been very excited to discover how to make my character stronger and basically how to push harder content in the pit, in the tower, and I'd like to share what I found with you. The thing is, I've been a WoW player for a long time, and I'm familiar with complicated crafting mechanics and, the chance that your crafted gear might not be what you expected. But Diablo 4 has a very interesting system that I'm still understanding, and I'd like to tell you my personal order in which I do things so that you reduce the amount of mistakes that you can make. Basically, my character's running around with a mythic unique helm piece that only has one gem socket because I didn't know that you could add two gem sockets. So I've learned from experience, and I wear that cap with pride because that taught me a valuable lesson. You need to watch tutorials before playing a new game if you want to prevent those mistakes. If you're a player like me that likes to discover things on their own, and there are some things that I still don't know, but it's going to be fun to find out, like, hey, I could have done this all along. If you're that kind of player, you could just watch this for fun. If you're not and you get very frustrated, then this is definitely the video for you. I'm going to walk you through my process on how to find gear and the activities that I do, and after I get that gear, what do I do with it? The thing is, you need to follow a particular order. There are some things that you can do in any order that you want, but the sanctification system is pretty punishing if you don't understand it well. Basically, you have to change and alter your item with the Occultist, with the Jewel Crafter, and the Blacksmith before sanctifying it, because when you do, you cannot alter the item. You can remove gems that you already have socketed on the item, but you cannot add more sockets. You cannot change the aspect of the item if it's a legendary item, and you cannot masterwork it if it's a unique one and you didn't reach the maximum rank. So without further ado, let's dive right in. First thing I recommend you to do is farm the pit, because that's going to do two things for you. One of them is it's going to contribute to your Paragon levels. Of course, any kind of content that you do, whether it's Lair Bosses, Nightmare Dungeons, objectives in the world, that's going to contribute to your experience gain. But ultimately, the pit is going to allow you to upgrade your glyphs. Now, this is something I didn't do until it was too late and until I was being crushed at the pit, and I realized that I was stretching out my Paragon points too thin. I had a lot of glyph slots, 5 to be exact, but I didn't put points in the surrounding nodes that made the glyphs stronger. So I started farming the pit, I leveled up most of my glyphs, and that allows me to start leveling other glyphs so that I can try out different builds and different ways of playing. So leveling up the glyphs has made the game a lot more dynamic in that sense. Also, the pit is gonna drop some legendary quality items. Occasionally you're gonna get a unique item, and occasionally you're gonna get an ancestral item, which is good so that you can start, gearing up your character and start doing harder content. So next, you have to do activities such as the Undercity of Kurast, and for that you're going to need some tributes for Endariel, and that's going to allow you to access a particular version of the Undercity, and that's going to give you particular benefits depending on the tribute that you have. Also, you should use Nightmare Sigils to farm different kind of resources. Some of them give you additional resources, some of them give you additional loot. Some of them have like hidden armories where you can get special items. And last but not least, you should do Lair Bosses. And for that, you need the Lair Bosses key for every particular Lair Boss. Now, you can get these in world content, or doing some Lair Bosses are going to unlock different Lair Boss keys. So that content is crucial to get your unique items and potentially your mythic ones. The only thing that you have to do to access these is just go to the map and just try to find the layers, and that layer is going to tell you what required layer key you need to access the loot. So personally, I feel that the Obols Nightmare keys are the most important ones, because Obols are a resource that you can use to buy a particular kind of piece of armor or weapon. You just go to the purveyor of curiosities in any city, and you're going to be able to buy potentially any part of your gear that you need. You're going to get legendary items guaranteed, but at some point you're going to get ancestral items. Now, the benefits of those items is completely random, but you could also get unique items. You could get ancestral unique items, or you could get rare items, or you could get blue items, which is just garbage. But the more pieces you buy, the higher the chance is of actually getting an ancestral piece that is useful to you. And even if you don't get the exact stats that you need, an ancestral item just for like 25 Obols is just crazy OP. Basically, what you do is every item that you don't need, you could just take it to the blacksmith and just salvage it, and that's going to allow you to basically have more aspects available in the occultist. So whenever you get a piece of armor that has good stats, you could just replace the aspect in the occultist. And my last favorite way to get loot is definitely killing Lair Bosses. Since I'm using the Arbiter build, which is really strong, I can just farm them non-stop. And Belial is my favorite because you can choose the loot table of any other Lair boss that you want. So you could just check out the loot table and just pick out the one that you're farming to get the items that you need. And let me tell you, unique ancestral items are just game changers. They could definitely change the way you play the game or the archetypes and the builds that you want to try out. My suggestion is just keep the strongest one with the strongest affixes and add them to your current build or make builds around them, and you're going to have a lot of fun. So whenever you get a good piece of gear or maybe a decent one, there's a lot of things to do, and I have to admit this is one of my favorite parts of the game. It can go very well or it can go very wrong in my experience, but there's a couple of steps that you need to follow. So I'm going to show you one thing that I did wrong yesterday. I got a pretty nice helm piece and I did everything I thought I needed to do with it, but the thing is, if you can see and you can compare both items, the one that I'm equipping right now and the one that I'm having in my inventory, the one on the left is the one that I'm currently using, and it has an imprinted aspect that gives me all resistance while in Arbiter form. The problem with the piece on the right is that I used the Sanctification before adding a socket for gems, and also I didn't change the aspect before sanctifying it. And remember, once you sanctify a piece, you cannot change it, you cannot alter it. You can take and put gems and runes or whatever, but you cannot change the properties of the item anymore. So it's very important that whenever you decide to sanctify, you already did everything you needed to do. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that with a decent piece of gear. It's not the best by any means, but it's one that might turn out to be better than the one that I'm using right now, and I'm going to explain why. The first thing that I'm going to do is, this is the first step that I always take. I take it to the occultist. Now, in this city, I think the occultist is right here. Yes. So the occultist does two things. I think the most important one is choosing the right aspect for your piece. And in this helm piece, I'm using the all resistance for Arbiter form. So I'm just going to go to my Codex of Power. I'm going to filter to Arbiter, and it's going to show me that I'm already using that aspect on the gear. So whenever you see this warning sign, just check your gear again. But I'm not concerned about this because my helm is the one that I'm going to replace. So I'm just going to put the same aspect and it should be okay. So there, I already have the aspect that I was already using, and now I want to change some properties that I don't want. So I'm going to go to the enchant tab and I'm going to put the item there, and I'm going to choose one of these stats that I don't want. I'm not against fire resistance, but I was looking for more like life on hit or maybe critical strike or something like that. So I'm going to try to change that. Or actually, you know what? I'm going to change the +3 to Valor skills because although it is a very good bonus, I'm not using Valor skills in this particular build. So I'm just using Falling Star, but that's not like a huge damage output. So I'm just going to change that Valor skill, and then I can start re-rolling everything. here. So I'm gonna re-roll this until I get something that I actually want. You can decide to not change it. You're still gonna spend the materials to do so, but you can decide if what it shows you is better than the thing you have, and you can start re-rolling it and re-rolling it. The only downside is that it's going to get more expensive the more you do it, but I think that's okay ultimately, just as long as you get something good. So I'm gonna this helm already has life per second, so I might just add maximum life because that's always good. I'm gonna try to hit it a couple more times to see if I get more maximum life. You see, you can get the same stat, but you can get it in a higher or lower measure. So I'm just gonna hit no change here, and I'm gonna re-roll it. See, I got a better maximum life re-roll, so I'm just gonna replace the affix. And yeah, it's looking pretty good. I mean, it's not the best helm that I've gotten, but you know, it might turn out better than the one that I'm using. So the reason why I'm changing it is because this helm has lucky hit chance, and currently in this build, I'm not using any lucky hit chance. So I think that maximum life might be more effective. So I'm just gonna re-roll it a couple more times since I have enough gold, and if I don't get something better, I'll just leave it like that. See, I've gotten a lot of maximum life re-rolls, but I don't get one that is better than this, so I'm just gonna re-roll a couple more times. Yeah, so life on kill, I'm not interested in that per se. I'm more interested in life on hit. Because I feel like I'm lacking some. I don't know if 70 resistance to all elements is better than maximum life, but I'm just gonna stick to maximum life for now. So yeah, that's it. I re-rolled it, and it didn't give me like an astounding affix, but I think it's looking pretty good. I have strength, I have maximum life, I have life per second, and I have some fire resistance, which is not bad. I already imprinted the aspect that I needed, so two things are left before going to sanctify it, because this already has a socket. If it didn't have a socket, I would have to go to the jewel crafter before I forgot. So I'm gonna go to the blacksmith, and the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna temper the item. So whenever you put an item here, you're faced with the choice of, you know, a defensive affix or a utility affix. I'm just gonna choose a defensive affix, and I'm gonna choose the more armor in arbiter form because I'm gonna be in arbiter form almost all the time. Now, this system also has some kind of reroll mechanic, because you can have that stat in a particular range, a set range that the ability has. So I got 5.6. So I can get between 3 and 6, and this is pretty high, but I have 3 rerolls available, and I can use scrolls of restoration to add more rerolls. So I might get like a critical strike and get a crazy affix, or I could just get less than what I have. I'm probably going to get less this time, but I'm just going to go ahead and, you know, re-roll this until I get a better one. 5.1, 3.3, 5.3, and now I don't have any rerolls. So if you don't have a scroll of restoration and you get a good number, don't hit the reroll button because you're probably going to get a worse stat. So I'm going to reroll again until I get something close to 6, and I'm going to spend as many, you know, as many scrolls as I need to. This is 5.6. It's not, you know, the highest, but it's not terrible. So now this has an additional affix, and now I'm going to use the masterworking system. So now I'm going to spend my resources, my hard-earned resources, to upgrade this to its maximum quality. I'm just going to upgrade it. It's going to spend the Obtusite. That's something that you should farm in high quantities. Whenever I reach the maximum quality of the item, I can upgrade it one more time, and it will give more potency to one affix. It will make it the masterwork affix. So this is like, it could be any of the stats that the item already has. So I'm interested in it being strength. So I'm going to upgrade it again, and it's going to change the masterwork stat. And you could spend a while here because it doesn't, like, it's not a certain thing. It's gonna make every stat randomly masterwork stat. So I have to reroll this until I get the one that I want. Be sure that you have a lot of resources for this. because if not, then you might get a stat that you don't want and you're going to be stuck with it. So I'm just going to hit this. Sometimes it's like, yeah, there we go. Sometimes you do this like 4 or 5 times and you get the stat that you want. In this case, I wanted strength because the helm in and of itself didn't have a boost to strength. The affix of strength wasn't the strongest one. So I'm already done with this helm. So the last step that I'm going to take is I'm going to go sanctify it. But before I do that, I want to show you what the process is for uniques and mythic uniques. So in this case, I have a Turiel's Might. I wouldn't say it's the most impressive chest that I've seen, but I wanted to just give it a shot, just to, you know, maybe try out different combinations or maybe use it in a different build. So there are some things that you cannot do with mythic items. One of them is you cannot temper mythic items. So you're not going to be able to add another affix to it. Also, you can masterwork it, but you cannot enchant it. If you come to the Occultist, it's not going to let you use an aspect of the Codex of Power, and it's not going to let you enchant it. So you're stuck with the stats or the affixes that that piece of armor has. Now, they're usually pretty good. Like, my mythic unique items are pretty good, but the only thing that I can do, and I'm not sure about this, I'm not sure if you can actually add sockets to the item, but I'm going to come to the Jewel Crafter and I'm going to try, and indeed you can. So just add 2 sockets to the item because it's a chest. Just add as many sockets as the piece of gear is able to get. Now, since I already have the sockets, I'm going to go ahead and masterwork it. Same thing that I did before with the other item. I'm just going to do it rather quickly. And then it's going to give me a masterwork affix. That means that it's going to make one of the affixes a lot stronger. Let's see what it is. So 35% damage reduction. So the other options are resistance to elements, total resistance. I feel like damage reduction is actually pretty good, you know, because it's like a general affix. Like, it's not armor or resistance, it's like everything. So I'm just gonna leave it that way, and I'm probably gonna use it for like a tank kind of build. So now that it's masterworked, these both items need to be sanctified. So I can just go ahead and go to the portal to Hadriel's hub or whatever, and I'm gonna go ahead and do it. So to sanctify an item, you need a heavenly sigil. I have a bunch of those because I don't sanctify a lot of items too often because I have to do all this process to sanctify them. So I'm just going to come to the heavenly forge and I'm going to put the helm in. Now, this can go very well or this could go very wrong. There are some affixes that are good. For example, the strength, the maximum life per second. But what the sanctifying does is it can either add a new affix, it can make one of the affixes that you already have stronger, or it could replace one of the affixes completely. And it's happened more often than not that I have a gear piece, for example, that has 270 strength. And then the Sanctifying replaces the strength affix and replaces it for a weaker strength affix. Effectively, that piece is just useless by that point. So I'm going to see if this actually makes the item better. So I sanctify it and it says new legendary power added. It says that my maximum resolve is increased. This is kind of like a juggernaut affix, and this is not great, but it's not terrible. Like, I don't use resolve, but maybe, you know, it's going to give me a little bit of defense capabilities because I have an aura that gives me resolve stacks passively, so might as well. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sanctify Turiel's Might. And it has a new legendary power added. It says gain armor and all resistance every X amount of faith you spend 4 seconds, stacking up to 50 times. This item is actually going to make it, it's going to make any spec that I play very, very tanky. So I might just add it to this build in the future if I feel like I need a little bit more resistance, because this affix, the disciple skills now weaken enemies, is definitely good, but you know, maybe if I'm dying too often and if I have enough damage, maybe a piece like this could be very useful to me. Because it's not only defensive, it also has an offensive stat where my skills unleash a divine barrage. I don't know if that's going to be any good, but I could give it a shot in a pit, just to see how it is. So this is all the process that you need to go through to improve your gear. I wanted to highlight some pieces that I got that actually made my build a little bit different. I got two unique items that I would like to show you. The first one is the Herald's Mourning. And I wouldn't normally use this item with the Arbiter build because it gives me Blessed Hammer stats. And I don't normally use Blessed Hammer because it spends faith, and this build is not meant to produce or generate faith that easily. But the thing that actually made me consider this build and actually go through with it and sanctify all my items and stuff is this ring, the Argent Veil. The Argent Veil gives the Arbiter's Evade trigger a core skill that is equipped. So I equipped Blessed Hammer, and now every time I use Evade, it casts Blessed Hammer, and it also gives a bonus to the damage of that core skill that is equipped. And see that this item has +5 to core skills, and this item has +7 to Blessed Hammer. That's why I said like Tempering and Masterworking and Sanctifying could go very well, or it could go very wrong. So in this case, I feel like it was pretty good. See that this Herald's Morningstar has a strength affix on the top, but when I sanctified it, it gave me another strength affix. It didn't replace that one that I already had. It added more, so it's a very powerful weapon. I expect to get a better one in the future, but so far it's worked pretty well. So what ends up happening ultimately is that, I have Blessed Hammer at 18 ranks. That's insane, in my opinion. It actually, like, destroys enemies. Like, when I'm running around and I'm kind of, just hitting my Arbiter form and moving really fast with Falling Star, I also use a lot of evades, and the minions that are further away from my wing strikes start receiving a lot of damage. And when I'm in like a low level nightmare dungeon, or when I'm in, for example, the underground of Kurast, the Undercity, I don't even see the creatures because the Blessed Hammers kill them before they render on my screen. So it's very fun. But in higher levels of the pit, it actually gets very hard, and it doesn't like one-shot enemies, but it's a good thing to have because since you move too much and you're trying to dodge abilities, whenever you're out of range, the hammers still do decent damage. So it's a pretty nice build overall. I might tweak it a little bit if I get different items, but so far I really like the playstyle because using evade is actually a lot more dynamic. Also, I took the liberty of using a particular combination of runes. I don't know if this is like the most effective one, but whenever I cast evade, I get a 7% critical strike chance up to 25%. So I'm constantly evading and I get a crit chance passive. So that's pretty neat because the Blessed Hammer and the Wing Strikes can critical strike, and they hit pretty hard when they do.